Hello, and welcome to my very first audio vlog. I'm going to be reading directly from a blog that I've written on my website. This way, it can be more accessible to anyone who'd prefer to listen, and you can also watch me paint while you listen if you'd like. Excuse me if it's a little bit awkward since this is the first time I'm recording myself on audio, voiceover, that sort of thing. I have a brand new microphone. It's all very fancy. Anyway, here we are, and let's get started. So, this blog post is an introduction to the Magic Pantry Oracle so far, which is the deck that I'm currently working on and planning on publishing next year. Here's the blog. I love food. I love cooking. I love eating. If you follow me on Instagram, you may be aware that my next deck project, or current, I suppose, is a food-themed oracle called the Magic Pantry Oracle. I've been posting time-lapse videos of the painting process with little additional information. This post will remedy that lack, diving into what I've done so far and what I have planned coming up to its 2023 release. First, the origins of the Magic Pantry Oracle. So, after printing the thread-bound Oracle and the Uncertain Oracle in 2020, I experimented with a number of ideas for my next deck. I had time to do so, considering that in 2021, I was reprinting the Numinous Tarot rather than a brand new deck. If you were part of my Patreon at the time, which has now been deleted, you might have seen the art for some of these attempts. There was a dark, foresty, trauma healing deck with round cards. There was a deck themed around art and artists called the Creatrix Tarot. I still plan to make this one, but under another name probably. And there was a food deck called the Stone Soup Tarot, which became the progenitor for the Magic Pantry Oracle. As I keep reading the next section, I'm going to put some of the old art on the screen for you, so you can have a look at those if you like, if you're watching. So I actually finished all 56 pip cards for the Stone Soup Tarot. That's the numbered suit cards. And I think at least some of the court cards, if not all of them. But I wasn't happy with it. I went into this deck thinking it would be a smaller side project while I worked on the artist-based tarot. And in an attempt to reduce the amount of time it takes me to make the art, I decided to paint the cards on tiny 5 by 5 inch pages in a simplified style. This is where it went wrong. By reducing the art in those ways, it made me way less enthusiastic about the project as a whole, which is basically a death sentence for me in regards to work. or anything else really. As someone with an interest-based attention span, I could have easily finished the deck in a couple months and had something to sell in 2021 or 22. I think, when was this happening? What is time? I have no idea anymore. But I decided I wanted to redo it all in my usual, more detailed style, as seen in the Numinous Tarot and the Threadbound Oracle. Cedar, you may be saying, those look great if you were looking at the images on the screen. I don't think they are bad, for sure, but they're not what I want, you know? Maybe I'll turn some of them into stickers or something. Now, enter many challengers. Depression, CPTSD, burnout, anxiety, figuring out I'm probably autistic, and physical health problems. Also, writing the next book in the Eternal Library series. That'll be its own post. Also, feeling burnt out on tarot as a whole and as a concept. And the exhaustion of running my biggest, most lucrative Kickstarter yet, which was the last Numinous Tarot reprint. Well, if you've noticed me disappearing from the internet in the last year or two, this is why. It's no secret that I struggle with my mental health. My work is very based in that experience, and it's my greatest hope that my decks and stories help other people in similar situations. I've gotten a number of messages to that effect, and every single one of them makes me so happy. It does not keep the depression away, sadly. All of these challenges have led to two major things in this deck making process. A, I changed it from a tarot deck to an oracle format and also changed the name. B, progress has been fairly slow. I have since recovered from feeling burned out on tarot as a system, but I'm still keeping the Magic Pantry deck as an oracle for a variety of personal and creative reasons. I love tarot and will make another one eventually, but I also love the freedom of structure with creating an oracle, comparatively speaking. So, what does it look like so far? Let's get into it. Progress so far with pictures. If you're watching the video, I will put them on the screen for you. At the moment, I have 33 card paintings finished for the Magic Pantry Oracle. I had 36, but decided I don't like 3 of them, which is par for the course. Had I scanned any of them until just now for the sake of this post? Barely. Do I have footage both in time-lapse and real-time formats of the painting process for quite a few of them? I do. And if you're listening to this, it's overlaid one of them. Probably the real-time video, but sped up. So that the length matches the blog post. But it still is not as sped up as my time-lapse footage, which is times 64 speed, so that they end up being somewhere around a minute in length. You'll be able to watch those as shorts here on YouTube as well, and on Instagram and TikTok. Yes, links in the description. I've never gotten to say that before. Anyway, okay. While writing this, I decided now is the time to catch up on scanning the paintings and adding their title text. The font might change before I release a final product, but you can see it on the screen as they go by. It's meant to look like a chalk menu font. It's all caps. I think it's important for it to be legible, which I should work on, actually, how it overlays some of the card illustrations. But that's why I'm saying it's a work in progress. And I think it's fun to show that progress and the process of creating these things with all of you, whether you're interested in creating something similar yourself and you want to know more about how that goes, whether you have already created decks and things like that and you enjoy seeing differences in other people's process. I know I do. Or if you're just curious and you like to use tarot and oracle decks. I think it's good when we learn about the process of creation behind the things that we use. It can really connect us to them in a deeper way and help us understand why creators, especially small creators, take the time they do to release things, create them, and all of that good stuff. I've gone on a tangent now from what's in the original blog post, so that's a little extra for those of you listening. Back to the post. 33 cards is a lot, but it's also halfway finished at best. And that's just counting the art itself, not the guidebook or the packaging or anything like that. The full deck will have somewhere between 66 to 74 cards, depending on my time and energy. So, here's where we break down the structure, theme, and other details of the deck. Disclaimer: since this is a work in progress, anything I say in this post is subject to change before the final deck is made and sold. So, deck type, Oracle, of course. Number of cards, 64 to 75. Or no, I said 66 to 74. To be determined. Card size, they will be standard tarot size, which is 2.75 inches by 4.75 inches. The cardstock should be the same thickness as the Numinous Tarot and the Threadbound Oracle, which is 350 GSM, if you know about specs like that, and I know a lot of tarot enthusiasts do. The finish will probably be glossy. I know it's easier to photograph matte cards. I know a lot of people like that finish, but I've found that my artwork in particular looks better color-wise with a gloss. Edging effects, probably none, but depending on pricing and funding, maybe an upgrade. Maybe. Theming. The Magic Pantry Oracle looks at food at a single ingredient level, with a focus on foods in their most unprocessed state. Not as a judgment on processed foods, but to allow for broader applications across different diets and cultures. Most of the cards are plant-based foods. There are some processed items in the deck, along with some animal products, but they are in the minority. The idea is that you can combine these base ingredients in a reading the way you would combine them in a recipe. There are, or will be, approximately 12 or 13 vegetable cards, 12 or 13 fruit cards, 12 to 13 herb and spice cards, 27 pantry cards. This includes starches, condiments, drinks, proteins, those sorts of things. And a new addition, 3 to 8 utensil cards. That brings us to a total of 66 to 74 cards. The number of exclusively plant-based cards plus the utensil cards is 57 to 65. There will be 6 cards that include animal byproducts and 3 meat cards. Because I really want to be veggie friendly, here's the lowdown on that. I plan to include plant-based versions in most of the animal byproduct cards. That means if it's the milk card, the image on the card and the description in the guidebook should include, say, like soy or nut milks. Whether you want to use them or take them out of the deck is up to you. As for the 3 meat cards, they will contain depictions of the animals they come from, not raw or cooked meat imagery. You can also take these out if you like, or use them to represent vegan alternatives. Kind of awkward if there's a cow or a chicken on the card, though. But that's sort of the point, that we need to recognize where our foods come from. But if it makes you uncomfortable, then I completely understand. And there's no need to keep them in the deck if you don't want them. There will also be cards for tofu, beans, and nuts. So you will still have veggie protein options in the deck. Maybe I'll make the tofu card include things like seitan and tempeh. I don't know yet. We'll see. So here's a list of the animal byproduct or vegan alternative cards. To be clear, these are all single cards, there won't be like a separate second card to substitute out for the animal products. They're supposed to cover both at once in one card. I realized while reading this that wasn't exactly clear. So, animal byproduct or vegan alternative cards. Egg. There probably won't be an egg substitute on this one. It's like the exception. Egg subs are really weird. Sorry if you use them. That's awesome. But when I was vegan, I didn't really do that. Maybe I'll put some flax in the background. Also, the next card, sweeteners. So this card will include honey, but also sugar, maple syrup, and agave. So it's up to you whether it bothers you that the honey is in there on the card or not. And that goes for the rest of these as well. There will be a milk card, a cheese card, a butter card. So all of those you could use for vegan alternatives. And there will be a condiments card. Many condiments are vegan, like ketchup, but some aren't, like mayonnaise. But they do have vegan versions. So again, it's up to you how you want to approach that. I kept the number of animal product cards low in comparison to the rest of the deck, partly for this reason, so you can still use the deck and have plenty of cards, even if you take those out. Right, and there will only be 3 meat cards. Seafood, meat, which will represent beef, pork, lamb, and a poultry card. Moving on, the guidebook. The guidebook will be written and designed like a cookbook. My ideas for this are still vague, but I'll put on the screen an experimental first draft of an entry I wrote for the lemon card. Just text, no layout design yet. I guess I could have pulled that up to read to you, but here we are. The guidebook will likely come in 2 formats, digital and physical. The physical version will be optional, as it will be significantly more expensive than the guidebooks for my past decks. I haven't decided whether it will be soft or hardcover, but I'm envisioning it on the larger side with full color illustrations. I am looking into printing this deck and book in the US rather than in China, where all of my previous decks were printed. And most indie decks, and certainly all mass-produced traditionally published decks, that's simply where printing is done these days. There's no judgment on that. However, I have my personal reasons for wanting to switch, mainly carbon footprint, time, those sorts of things. So, this is why I'm splitting the guidebook option. If you have a smaller budget, you can opt to only receive the digital guidebook. Perhaps it will be a printable version for better affordability, because printing in the US means that my production costs will increase significantly. In addition, each card will also have keywords on it, so you can come up with your own associations or use those. Unless you have more money and you'd like the big guidebook, the fancy one that I'll be making. there are still some major logistics to work out here, so this is the part that might change the most between now and the eventual Kickstarter. The packaging is also still to be decided. I will give you more info later. As far as pricing, I'm currently unsure exactly how the deck will be priced, but I'd like to keep the digital guidebook version around the same price of my current decks, which is 35 to 45 USD. The version with the fancy guidebook may be more in the $65 range, but I will make it worth that extra 20 or however many dollars it ends up costing. Background and biases. I am a white American millennial with mixed European heritage, with almost none of those food cultures passed down to me due to assimilation into monolithic whiteness. I was raised in a low to lower middle class family, mainly in an urban area with a single mother who largely cooked easy meals from scratch and taught me how to do so from a young age. As a teen and young adult, I got more into learning to cook and bake from old cookbooks and later from TV competition shows like Chopped. Yes, I know, a chaotic choice. And I became interested in matters of food justice and production at that time as well. We moved to a rural area when I was in high school where we were able to grow some of our own food, which I got to help with. The foods represented in this deck are largely a reflection of the foods I grew up on or that I now enjoy cooking. In the past, I have been both vegan and vegetarian, and I still would be if not for a tricky combination of digestive health issues and money. Please do not advise me on this in the comments. I understand wanting to help, but I'm keeping the details of that to myself. I did all I personally could to stay on a plant-based diet before giving up, and it's quite upsetting to me at times. And this is why this deck is not 100% vegan or vegetarian, but will remain friendly to both of those diets, as I described in the previous section. It will also not make anyone feel bad for not being vegan or vegetarian. As I said earlier, no judgment. We're all here together. It's a complex thing. Ethics. Food is a complicated topic. I intend to approach it with understanding and compassion. Though I've never struggled myself with an eating disorder, I intend to make this deck as safe for people who have as is possible. Hopefully, I'll be able to hire a sensitivity reader. In the guidebook and imagery, there will be no discussion of weight or weight loss and no judgment of certain foods as good or bad for you. And like my previous decks, I will be showing body types of all kinds in the card imagery, though this deck, not every card has a person in it. There are some, and you will see them. There will be no demonization of animal products, processed food, snack food, fast food, or any particular food components such as fat, sugar, or carbs. There will also not be any emphasis on foods being particularly healthy. Certain phrases you might have heard, like clean eating, whole foods, or superfoods. Those will not be in there. You will not see them, I promise. In the guidebook, I will also do my best to consider things like allergies, medical diets, intolerances, financial availability, and culture. The main focus, thus, will be on flavor, enjoyment, practical usage, neutral physical attributes of the food, mythology, history, and how these things can relate literally or metaphorically to the rest of our lives. Future plans and progress. My current intention is to launch a Kickstarter for the Magic Pantry Oracle in the spring of 2023. However, because of my mental and physical health, I can't say for certain that will remain the plan. For now, I mean to focus on completing the art for the cards, the bulk of the work, before moving on to the guidebook and packaging. If things go well, I would like to post the cards as I make them, both on my new blog on my website, link in description, maybe once a week, Fridays, something like that, and on Instagram several times a week. I usually post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, along with both real-time and time-lapse videos of the painting process here on YouTube. A recipe for disaster. Earlier, I mentioned that for the past few years, I've been dealing with some physical health problems. Either because the universe is an inherently chaotic, meaningless place full of entropy, or because of some kind of cosmic destiny, the majority of those problems are digestive related. Moving states in 2019, I moved from Washington State to California. Combined with the pandemic, has also interrupted my ability to get care and figure out exactly what's going on. I only recently got back on the rails of that journey for professional help. Something I was not prepared for in dealing with digestive disorders is the emotional toll it takes. Particularly as a person for whom food and cooking has long been a deep interest, comfort, and way of expressing love for myself and others. I've been cooking since I was 10 or 11. I watch a lot of food TV. I read books about food production and food justice. I just really love food. When suddenly food hurts you instead, it's felt like a huge betrayal and even a grieving process. So you can understand why I have some complicated feelings about the fact that my main project right now is a food-themed deck. I have an appointment with the gastroenterologist in December, during which I plan to ask for some actual testing to be done to get to the root cause of my problems, which I'm hoping will help me and my doctors figure out what treatment is actually best and or necessary. Even if this process ultimately helps me feel better. I expect there to be some difficult emotions involved, and I expect to have to consider the medical diets that I've been on for the last few years, in which there are many restrictions. There are a lot of foods that I can't eat or must eat very sparingly in order to avoid being in pain. Part of me sees all of this as an opportunity for personal healing of some kind. Like, I might be able to use the Magic Pantry Oracle as a way to process what's going on with my digestive health, but it's tricky. I have a sense that this journey will have an impact on what the deck finally looks like, how it works, etc. But at the moment, I can't say exactly how. That's all to say that creating always comes with unknowns and risks. For a while, I wanted to keep it to myself to avoid too much public waffling on changes or even the dropping of ideas in the project entirely. But at this point, I think I want to be open and talk about the difficulties of being a disabled creative and my creative process, including the lumps and bumps, to make the job as a whole transparent. I know I'm not the only one with these struggles or fears of similar struggles, and I want us to be able to talk about it together. If you're like me, you might also just like knowing how things are made. And all this is a big part of how my decks are made, one way or another. To wrap things up, there's still a lot of work left to do, but this is where I'm at. I hope you all are excited for this one. I promise that whatever changes or not by the time it's released, it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much for sticking with me and my work through all of these years. It's only because of all the support I get from people buying and sharing my decks and my novels that I'm able to do this great job for a living. Whenever someone buys something or comments something nice on Instagram or sends me an email, it just makes my day. It really does. And as much as I struggle sometimes with the intersection of my work and health, this job has also given me an immense amount of freedom to rest and recover when I need to do that, and to set my own schedule and all of those things. And that wouldn't be possible without all of you. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this inaugural blog post. It feels great to be going back to like my old live journal in the 2000s, just chatting and giving you all updates, and now incorporating this new audio format / video format, which I think is going to be really fun. If you have any comments, questions, anything at all, please leave me a comment down below. I guess I should do that YouTuber thing where I ask you to like the video. You can also subscribe if you'd like to get notified whenever I post one of these. I plan to continue pairing audio recordings of my blog posts with painting footage. So keep an eye out for more of those in the future, including but not limited to more updates on the Magic Pantry Oracle, and absolutely probably the next post and video will be about my progress on the next Eternal Library series book. So if you liked The Thread That Binds and you've been waiting for book 2, it's coming. It's coming. I promise. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.